welcome to Upstage Downstage, with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Pride and Prejudice, sort of. We saw this production at Nottingham Theatre Royal on the 31st of March 2023. Pride and Prejudice, sort of, is a play by Isabel MacArthur with songs based on Jane Austen's novel. After an initial production in Scotland in 2018 and a tour in 2019 to 2020, it opened in the West End in 2021. The production won the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Entertainment or Comedy Play. So Stephen, what's it all about?
The plot hews closely to the Austen novel in a contemporary setting with some modern language. The all-female cast of 5 or 6 each play multiple characters, both servants and gentry, retelling the novel's events through the servants' eyes and performing hilariously well-chosen karaoke songs at pivotal moments.
But first, our post-show opinion!
Irresistible, imaginative and fierce.
Creatively captivating chaos. So with all that said, let's
Set the scene!
So Richard, would you like to begin at the beginning and set the scene? Whilst
Begin
I
the
think
begin?
Begin the begin, yes. I'm going to drink my coffee and you can chat for a bit.
Oh yeah, is that how it works?
Now, I've got to think about what I want to say.
Well, you know. So the set you're presented with is basically a staircase with understair storage, in a way, in a grand house. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. You've just got a very simple set, really. There's not a lot to this, just one imposing staircase
And a back cloth.
and a black cloth. It's very simple to the point, with a piano at the back of stage and I think that was it. There was not really anything else.
Well, shall we start at the beginning?
Yeah, well,
So when we came into the auditorium...
oh, the auditorium.
The auditorium. And we took
you
to our
just stole
seats.
that word from me.
Yes, I did. They had some of the principal casts actually do some dusting and cleaning because they were setting up the beginning where there were the 5 maids just
From
cleaning. Yeah, maybe. They certainly didn't do any numbers. Well, they might have done. I've just gone off on a tangent now. You just made my mind go somewhere I didn't want to go.
I'm sorry to
You've slipped in my mind and you poisoned
I'm
it.
sorry to go all doily cart, but
You really have. So, yes, they were doing some cleaning, entertaining the front row of the audience in a way of their pre-show little warm-up, I suppose, of what it would be. And as you said, it was a manor house with just the staircase,
Yeah.
and then lights down, and then
and some few piles of
lights
books
up,
on stage, just dotted around stage. There wasn't really any. You didn't really understand the reason, but you can also see the link from the Jane Austen sort of with books and
all
stories and writing. You know.
Yeah. Now, the backcloth was just, I suppose, an outdoor scenery of just. I think it's supposed to be
just clouds
Derbyshire,
and sort of. It was very
a hint
sort
of the
countryside, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, some nice flooring as well. I like those tiles. I've been looking at them in B&Q for my hallway.
Yeah, exactly. And it was almost a floral wallpaper on one of the. There was just one big flat at the back of stage.
Yeah. Now we were positioned right at one of the stage? No,
We were
just on the right.
We were on the right because we're not on stage.
Yeah,
dear.
we're not on stage. No. Well, the thing is, in my head, I think that I'm in
So
my
are you ready
stage.
to go on now?
Well, you're in my play, my life.
Well, you know, this is
You're the audience member of my stage.
What's
so.
reality and what's abnormality?
Oh, what have we put in this coffee? I don't know.
We're doing well.
But yeah, there was one section of this set would be stage left, and we couldn't really. Well, I certainly couldn't see it, but it's wallpapered. That's the bit you're talking about, isn't it? That's
Yeah, it
wallpapered,
is. Yeah, basically.
Is that the one with the books? Like
yeah,
a
with
book
the wooden
case?
frame. Yeah, it's just like a picture frame.
Yeah. A picture frame?
Well, it's just framed. It's a framed piece of almost wallpapered wall, really, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, but the wallpaper is of a bookcase, isn't it? Of books.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And he knew that.
And
He
actually,
did not have to
interestingly
Google
enough,
the image it at all.
no, he didn't.
No.
And actually, interestingly enough, all the way up the stairs, there's the same wallpaper to match the. So it actually there's books all the way up the stairs, as though each step's got books as a bookcase.
Yeah.
And then on stage right, there's a staircase up from the audience onto stage as well.
Yes.
Definitely.
And I quite like the colour of it as well. It's like a lilac. Well, unless it's the light being shone
It's
on
lit.
it.
It's lit with sort of.
So
with a
do you
light
reckon it's
hue.
white or cream backdrop? But it just looks lilac and white.
It's pale
stairs.
blue panelling on the side of the staircase.
Well, how do you know for sure it could be lilac? My eyes could be better than yours.
They could be, yeah.
Well, yeah. So the light blue, because
Yeah,
in all the pictures it's
obviously,
light blue.
when I say understair storage, they were actually
Exits
big-
and entrances.
swing doors, really, so that you could actually get in and out.
How big? Which means big swing doors.
Well, it was the full height of the staircase. The doors they weren't half.
Yeah, there were
in
two
half.
lots of them.
Yeah, which I thought was clever use of the only real entrance and exit that was visible. Everything else was done from sort of both sides of the stage, really.
And anyone that went through under the staircase.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean through the doors, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean through the archway of the staircase.
Yeah.
That made it more like a grand thing. And
Yeah.
I think they used the smaller doors as like the downstairs.
Yeah, so like the scullery.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're off downstairs to go
that's
and
right. The downstairs area. I was thinking of upstairs, downstairs again, and then I got upstage, downstage in my head, and I couldn't think of what I was
Well,
trying
I
to
don't know why we've
get out.
called it upstage, downstage.
I don't know. Maybe it's my love of Gene Marsh. I'm not quite sure. Why did I need to bring that up? I don't know.
Well, it's because we're talking about grand houses and manors and
Well, I've just been watching the Theatre Was recently.
Exactly.
So
It's the way one would like to live,
yeah.
Would you like to live in the scullery or the grand house, though?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a very good question.
No, I think I'm very much a downstairs maid. I'll be with Ruby.
I definitely want to hear what's going off and the rumblings on the underneath the floorboards.
Oh, Mrs. Bridges, what are you cooking for
I
dinner?
definitely want to be the one cleaning the wardrobe or get my feather duster out, listening to all the gossip and conversations.
Yeah, I think so. Although I think my life would be a bit more of a parody of that, so I think I'll be more "You Rang My Lord." So I'll be in the back with Sue Pollard.
Wow.
Perry Benson, I think it is. Yeah.
Can you see the tangent we've gone on this time?
Yeah, well, that's what it does to you sometimes. It just gets you in a certain way. Do you know what I mean? Like twisting your nipples.
I think we need to. Don't you mean ringing the bell for service?
Yeah, but in my parodied life, you'll be twisting your nipples for service. Answer that door. The front or back, left or right nipple. Which one's which? What is in this coffee?
Press 1 for yes and 2 for no.
Oh, my life. I think it's going to have to be a cup of tea next time.
I think you might have to.
So, I think we've set the scene extremely well. Have we? Yes, I think we have.
Yeah.
So, the first part of it was
Well, basically,
six
maids, cleaners of the house. They were.
Yeah,
setting-
now, we were led to believe
Yeah.
that this is where the whole action was. But in the mid of it, in the middle of the play, when you get carried away, you forget that these are the maids retelling the story at the very end.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so I butchered that little bit there.
You have.
I've
You've
tried
really
to
butchered that there.
explain it.
Yeah.
So let's move on then.
Yeah, I mean, as Stephen said, they were very much the cleaners on stage. Basically, what we saw was a production that was 5 maids playing dress up, really, reenacting all the parts of Pride and Prejudice throughout.
Was it 5
From
or was
the-
it 6?
Was it 6?
No, it was 5.
It was 5 on stage,
5.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
5 on stage. So what we saw was basically at the start you got the feeling that, as I said before, if you think about the maids cleaning the wardrobes, cleaning the house, delivering the tea in the middle of all these conversations, they're hearing everything that goes off in these manor houses, and what they're doing, almost like for a bit of fun, because there wouldn't have been TV, there wouldn't have been telly, it would have been them reenacting that scene to have a laugh and a joke about it from a different perspective. And I think what we saw was quite a bit of that, really, and I think it was written really cleverly that they dipped in and out of being maids, and they dipped in and out of being those characters, and then all of a sudden becoming somebody posh, because there's a lot of imitation and a lot of split personality almost in the way they did this, and I think they did it really well. And just by putting a dress on or a hat on and a jacket or something to just show that they'd turned into one of the male characters or the female characters, or just to give you that nod to all the classic characters in Pride and Prejudice, it was done in such a clever way to sort of, it became so fast paced that I was in awe, really.
Where's that?
It's near, you know.
Oh, is it?
Have you ever been?
I don't know, you know. Yeah, it was exceptionally well written, this piece, and I did like how they did the story from the viewpoint of the maids.
Yeah.
Because I think that just made it be more playful.
Yeah, definitely.
But in a childish way that the sort of maids would be.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it allowed it to have a lot more scope for, well, reenact the story through the interplay between them all.
I mean,
and the scenes that then followed. It was just amazing. Plus, what I would say is I was quite interested to read what the author Isabel MacArthur said about this, where, like Jane Austen, she never published under her own name. It had to be under a male name because they're very male orientated. So this was really nice to see 5 women portray the male characters and it all be about women.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think they're so talented and amazing performers.
Yeah.
That I just love all female casts, really. I think there's more scope.
And it's such a nod to Jane Austen. If that, you know, she had to hide her identity all that many years ago, she would have been very happy if she'd have seen this, I feel. I mean, one of the things I'd say about the writing, the adaptation by Isabel, is nobody had nothing to do.
Yeah.
The minute somebody left stage, they became another character, or they became the maid again, back on stage to bring an item of furniture on, or then walk back off stage and literally walk behind the staircase, put another costume on and come back out as another character. There was literally split seconds between. And as much as we will talk about directing later, but to write this with that in mind, there's so much complexity in it that you don't realise until you sit there in awe a little bit of how flawless they made it look, because that all starts with how it's written. Yeah. You know, some of them only had a couple of lines when they walked back, came back, and disappeared off stage, came back on as another character. There was a couple of scenes where one of them would walk off after being one character and then being pushed on a chaise longue as another character, and instantly change the characterisation and the mannerisms. And if you haven't got strong writing to go with that, it wouldn't have worked. So and I think that was. I think it also helped with the director as well. Totally.
I think you could clearly see that the interplay between them all and the improvisation and the creativity that's gone behind this, that the writing and the directing would have probably worked hand in hand in trying to add little pieces. How could we make this funny, or how could we make that particular scene happen in a better or inventive way? And
I can also understand why Isabel MacArthur directed this with Simon Harvey.
Yeah, because it was originally directed at, I think, Edinburgh Festival.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it did. It was in Edinburgh Fringe. It started originally. Yeah. That was when it sort of started rearing its head to a lot of people noticing it. Anyway, but you can see that it would have been a collaboration, but it needed 2 heads that worked really well together to actually make this strong, and that's what they did. They you can see why. You can also see that there may be some edits happened at the point of directing it, writing it. It would have.
Do you mean with the cast as well.
Yes, sort of. You can almost see that they must have had a lot of work on doing it to actually make it what it is now. There must have been some things happen that would have naturally come out of the performance that you can't always write until you do it.
Yes.
You know?
And for the writing, it's even though it's like a parody about the actual Pride and Prejudice, what I liked about this was the fact that they got all the details correct. They got all the bullet points and the plot points of the novel that they highlighted it throughout their reenactments, and that was quite reassuring in a way, because I think we've seen a couple of plays now where they've taken an original and done bits and bobs, and it's just not, they've missed certain bits out, or it's not lived up to the hype or whatever. So coming to see this, it was a delight, because no matter what they improv, no matter what the comedy piece was, how they delivered it, so long as you hit the bullet points of the notes, it's like a musical note in a way.
Of course it is.
As long as you hit all the right notes for the plot points of what's going on, you can keep up with it. I knew exactly what was going on. I didn't have to think, oh, now where have they gone here? What's this about?
Yeah.
It was thoroughly entertaining, even if things did go off on tangents in terms of the slapstick or whatever they were doing. It was very imaginative and captivating within the plot as well.
Because Jane Austen's got such a big following as a writer, you've got to be very careful with the original text that you don't annoy an audience to change the narrative. You know what they've done cleverly is keep that in there, but then play with it and just. It feels like that.
Could you imagine, with it being all female, if they changed Mr. Darcy, if they updated it to be Mrs. Darcy or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they did have like a bit of a lesbian love thing going on there.
Yeah.
I can't think if that was ever such a thing.
But it was touched on enough that the audience could read into it and like just see the longing or the little moments that you can only do if you do it on stage or it's filmed or whatever. You can only see that by a glance or a look or a longing. It doesn't always need to be in text either. And I think that's what they were very clever in, almost prizing out anything that was just great moments on stage. And I think that was good for this, because sometimes I find that you can rely on an original story or the original text or whatever, but when you're on stage, you've got to make the most of the performance.
Yeah.
And when you start messing with things like this, you've still got to keep a core of it so that a classic audience that would think Jane Austen watch it and go, they can still enjoy it, but it still feels like basically the scullery putting on a show. Yeah. Because that's what this felt like.
It really was, wasn't it?
It was behind the scenes and the let's make it funnier, or let's make it this, let's have a bit of fun with it. And it was like it was like your old mummers play, performing in the street, playing like just overacting certain parts, and it was just it just really felt in the right moment and time. Even though there was modern elements within this just took you back to that time.
And I think it helped greatly with the fact that they've called it Pride and Prejudice in brackets sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that is like a get out of jail free card. And when you say about them being updated, well, when they went to the shops, they came in with a Tesco carrier bag.
Yeah, exactly.
We're thinking it's meant to be.
And they got a karaoke machine, and they got and all those and the little things that were there that helped.
It made it more farcical.
It's like the marigolds.
It made it entertaining.
There's nothing more funny than marigolds and unblocking toilets and stuff like that. That obviously never happened in any upper class household or anything like that. Obviously, nobody blocked a toilet, but there was obviously that. It was quite funny that.
How do you know they didn't block a toilet?
No, but you'd never see that on a TV program or read it in a book.
No.
But it would have been standard practice, and it was just nice that this production drew focus on every household's got a toilet, and every household's got a blocked one. It's all that.
Well, these kind of toilets, they would have been probably inside, but
well, exactly. But I think it was just nice that they went to those extremes to show that these maids dealt with a lot in those houses that you never normally saw.
Yeah, this was great. Now, I think this is a good segue to move a little footstep over to the directing.
I didn't know you got a segue.
I've got a segue.
Have you?
Yeah.
Don't lean too far back. You might
No,
might
this
run
is
off
it.
with you. Might
Same
break a
two
limb.
wheels. Yeah. No. So the directing, this was a masterclass in directing.
Completely.
Every nuanced little bit, all the little bits of cleaning, the props that they used, the transitions between scenes and the fetching and carrying and bringing things on, and it was just, it was like a minor orgasm of just watching everything
you almost
go
sat
off on stage.
Fixed watching this happen because, like,
Well, it was just exciting. It was thrilling to watch as an audience member.
I mentioned the little piles of books on stage in the way it was set up. They turned into seats. They turned into things being used on stage.
Well, they used them as seats. It wasn't like Transformers where
no,
they just
it wasn't
turned into like a
Transformer,
great chaise longue.
You thought they were just there as a nod to like them being books and just lay around on stage, but actually they were used. It was definitely
served a purpose. Like this, it's like a piano stool.
Yes,
and it opened up to be like a makeup box.
Yeah.
It was
very
interesting
clever.
and clever. Yes,
but you can knowing sort of the Edinburgh Fringe style. This is very much how they would have put it on in that space, because you haven't got room for extra props that you don't need. And I think this is about restraint and knowing that the key pieces of furniture are important, and this showed it because everything they used was right. Even down to the father that was always got his head in the paper that you never saw.
That was so well done.
And it was just a chair with a propped up newspaper that looked like he was reading the newspaper, and they just talked to the chair. But you didn't need any more than that, and it was just brought on at the right point in time, and it was just
and it's another
specific.
added little piece of humour as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think, and I mean, even to me, I was loving the fact that all the set was attached to each other. So they directed it to the point of the side table to the sofa was attached to the bottom of the base, and everything else was like linked. So it was just so quick to get on and off that it was.
Well, you don't want to be scrambling about doing stuff, do you?
No, not at all.
What impressed me the most, I suppose, within all this was when one of the characters were leaving and she were getting onto the horse.
Yes.
And they brought this great big horse out from under the stairs.
Yeah.
Not through the cupboards.
No, through the stairs.
The actual stairs. And once they got on, one of the maids came out with these coconut things to do the horse thing. So then the other one came in with it was like a Violida mop, but they used it as like a seagull or something.
Yeah, seagull.
Yeah, and one of them were like spraying water in front of the face like it was misty and rainy and stuff. And
you got all the elements of like Monty Python, like the scene of galloping through the trees and.
Yeah, and they all waved her off as she was on the horse, but they like slowly walked back and back as if the horse that was static was travelling. That to me was just the pinnacle of. Just said
it all.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah. The direction of it was like, we're going to be tongue in cheek, and we are going there. It was like, we're going to do it, and we're doing it.
But it gets away with it because it's being reenacting, and it's like kids playing.
Yeah, and it was Paul playing dress up. It was like,
and before that was quite funny. Was I think Emily Stonelake? She had on this like yellow Mac, and she was going to go out to see if it was raining, and it was, and that's because one of the other ones I have a feeling it was Leah Jameson. I'm not quite sure if it was her. Well, one of them anyway. They had this spray bottle of water, and she put a hand out in front of the audience, and the other one just sprayed it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a little bit of rain, and she kept doing that, and she kept spraying it onto her hand.
So simple, but just so effective.
But it just brought the house down.
Yeah, it did.
Those stupid little things are just so.
And I think
innovative.
this is where you can learn a lot from a production like this, where nothing is wasted and everything's done for a reason. Every specific point was there for the real reason, really. And I think you can throw things like this away, or people think that your best laughs are from the spoken word, but they're not. It's about performance and commitment to it, really.
Yeah.
I suppose one other thing I'd say about direction is they worked a lot on the entrances and exits of key people that entered, as in the grand entrance of the old lady in the grand dress. You know, they never throw out a moment of. It was very much I'm here. They'd spent a lot of time on that change in personality from each person when, you know, and I think that comes from directing and working with a cast that they're accepting and listening, because I think this is a key thing where you can see that the direction must have been challenging but also a dream, because they must have all done it and spent a lot of time on getting this right, really.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're here for the drama.
So the best part about this whole production wasn't just the writing or the directing, it was the talented actresses that were on stage. And throughout, from the very get-go, just before we took to our seats, they were in character as maids. And as I said, you know, they got changed and then they were reacting these characters. And throughout all of these characters, they put on a different personality. And some of them had multiple personalities. Especially Leah Jameson. She played two of the sisters, at least, and they were so different from each other.
And the priest.
And I'm just talking about the Bennett sisters. But she did talk about the priest with his male role, as did, and Danny Harris took on the role of Mrs. Bennett and Mr. Darcy. Yeah,
I mean Leah Jameson, her changing character, the things she had to change from and to, and you know the different styles she got, it must have been so funny but very schizophrenic to learn.
Yes, and she had one accent, didn't she, for one of the sisters, which was it Liverpudlian. Yes, and Emily Stonelake, one of the sisters, she was Welsh.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, it didn't matter because it was all quite funny, and the delivery of their lines in that accent was hilarious.
It's not just about delivery of lines in their accent; they were using isms that were for that accent as well. They were using the cliched things that you'd normally hear within that accent. It wasn't just like they delivered it with an accent. They'd put in some of the extra isms to
like
make
what?
it.
Do you know?
Well,
you're having an ism at the moment.
Yeah.
A forgetfulism.
Yeah, I am.
It's okay if you can't remember.
No, I think it was more. It felt more true to the dialect rather than just reading it in an accent. I think that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, certain parts of the dialect was said in a way you would only expect as like in Welsh, or you know, I think it wasn't just read with a Welsh accent.
I just assumed it was their natural speaking voice.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Well, I know. Isms.
And Megan Louise Wilson, she played the first love interest who was going to get married to, I forget his name. But it started off as being like her story before it then switched to Emmy. Oh, it's not Emily, it's Emmy Stonelake. I do apologise. Emmy Stonelake, yeah. So then it went to Emmy Stonelake as Elizabeth Bennet, who were having the love interest with Mr. Darcy. But for Megan Louise, she played the elderly aristocrat lady.
Yes.
And she did it phenomenally well. The whole dialogue and the dialect and the whole...
It was stature and sort of...
How like
Yeah.
Okay. It's just how she managed to change her voice for that and give the impression of this lady. It was just completely different to the maid she was playing and also the character of the sister that she was playing as well.
Really was.
So they were all really fantastic. And you could see that they enjoyed working together, well, I assume, and they enjoyed the play that they're in. They enjoyed the production and the characters. And I think it helps when you can see that.
Yeah, it really does.
On stage.
Yeah, I think it added so much more to the production as a whole, because if you didn't have that way with each of the like pinnacle poignant kind of characters, it wouldn't have had the style that it had. I think it needed, those actors needed to make sure that everything you felt like they'd stepped into somebody else's shoes every time they changed into a different character. And I think that was key to make them stand out, really, because then when they all of a sudden became maids again, you didn't see the other characters. You felt
That's
like they'd washed them
yeah.
away very quickly,
Yeah.
and cleaned them away almost back in a box.
Yeah.
It was,
and the performances were strong,
Yeah.
believable, instantly dynamic and changed from one to the other.
And not just that, the chemistry between them all was brilliant. I mean, you didn't think that one of them weren't working with each other. There was no one-upmanship, or there was nobody upstaging anybody. It was all about
Well, it was all about them having a laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how it definitely came across.
Yeah, and you felt that warmth from that. You felt
Yes.
that performance. You felt that they were all making sure everybody shone in their best light. And I think that was important in this production, really.
Yes. And I think Danny Harris, she played the Mrs. Bennet.
Yeah.
And it was just hilarious just to see her over exaggerate every little detail or every
Really
frustration and things that just weren't going her way with trying to control her
Completely.
Daughters. It was just amusing and funny and just
Totally.
playful of warmth and coziness, and it was just great. And Lucy Gray gave a dynamic and strong performance when she was both male and female parts.
Yeah.
As well, and also she played the Charlotte, didn't she? The cousin.
Yes, she did.
And there was a little bitchiness towards her.
Yeah.
Over the Mr. Darcy character as well. His sister, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So she gave a bitchy performance. For the role of Charlotte over the brother of Mr. Darcy, when Emmy Stonelake, Elizabeth Bennet, came in to see him, and that was quite funny. And also, this was going back to the directing pieces. It just popped into my mind. The creativeness behind the performance and the directing when they were doing the bits over the letters, when they were writing the letters and then saying them out, and also it was near the very end where they'd come to this grand manor where the maids had been cleaning.
Yeah.
And they brought this empty picture frame out. And
that was really good.
And Danny Harris, as Mr. Darcy, was stood in front of it. And every time they moved, they changed direction.
Yeah.
It's
like the picture was following you in the room.
Yeah, it's like they were talking about this picture, and she just stood behind it, just making it the expression of him just being how he would have been painted.
It felt, yeah.
And that was so hilarious.
It
I
really
think
was.
That, to me, after the horse, was just some of the highlights. Oh, and the chair. Oh, there's so many to choose from in this.
And yeah, again, we're talking about one gold picture frame.
Yeah, that's all it was.
It's just, and it was just enough to create such a funny moment, and I think that was key to this. There was,
they could have brought out a picture
Yeah.
of an actual oil painting
of
someone sat there, and it wouldn't have had no effect whatever.
Not at all.
We would have had
yeah,
so
exactly.
That's it.
Yeah,
but to actually have someone stood behind it just brought so much depth to it.
And it wasn't, and this is with somebody that wasn't a stagehand brought out. It was one of the other maids, dressed as a maid at that point. That was just probably been two other characters.
Exactly,
was stood there almost looking like she's cleaning the picture frame.
Yeah, and she just put the jacket on.
Yeah.
And then she sort of I don't think she put the thumb up, but she basically moved her arm up into
exactly,
shot.
That's all she needed to do, and it was just.
But also
inspired.
when the girls were. When the visitors moved to a different part of the stage and then looked back, they tilted and moved around a little bit to angle themselves.
They really did.
In their view. And that was just so phenomenal in the way that was
it was so
achieved.
Specific and just well put together, I feel.
Yeah, so we've done the writing, spot on. We've done the directing, which is spot on. We've done the acting, which is fantastic. And sometimes what we often forget is the props and the costumes in this bit. So I think we need to have a little bit, because this is a period piece.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about the props and the costumes?
I thought, prop-wise, I mean, we've discussed how many props we used.
Yes.
I mean, for me, I was in awe of how well
You're in awe again?
I was in awe. It's where I'm going on holiday this year.
Or is it in awe?
Yeah, in awe. It must be a place in the world somewhere. It's just off the Isle of,
You know. I go to the caravan in, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've been there once, never again. I mean, I think with props, the reason I'm saying it is because to lay these props out in order, in the right place, to put the dressers on the back of the changing screen, which at the first part of the production, a changing screen comes back out. Because we were up in the balcony, you could see that they'd been laid out and hung up on the back of this changing screen. But there wasn't just one costume on one hook. There was like 3 or 4 different dressers on top of each other. And for that to be put on in order to and behind the staging, they were the same. There was only certain hooks behind these staircases that you could see had got costume hung up and stuff like that. If one of those had been hung up on the wrong bit, there'd have been people running about, getting the wrong costume, this, that and the other. And because each one was doing a specific character, everything needed to be in the place it was in for them to pull it off. So it became... It was another part of the production and the choreography of it. Because we talk about choreography of dance or where to move on stage and things like that, but it was a choreography of props, this production was, and I think that's the key thing. There was so much more to this that if you tried to write it down, good luck, because there was so much, and that's why I mentioned chaos in my post-show opinion, because it was chaos, but it was so much order, so much order and so much. It was so much organised. There was organised chaos.
It was also unique in the fact that for the time frame of it, and because they were at these balls, these parties or whatever, one of the characters brought out a tub of Pringles, got the hand stuck in it, and when they finally pulled it off, it was a microphone because this is a karaoke.
Yeah, but you were led to believe that she got her hand stuck in it. He got his hand stuck in a tub of Pringles. But also there was little props use of like hidden in the dresses. There'd be pockets with confetti in. So when you went to a manor house, we didn't go anywhere. We were still on the same staircase, but to imitate that we'd moved to a new house, let's get some confetti out because we're in a grand, posh, we're in a new place. So it's white confetti for this one because it's very grand, but it was those little things that there was so much attention to detail.
And just when they did the Christmas scene, they brought the
garlands.
It wasn't tinsel. It was actually like
it was your
foliage,
traditional,
wasn't it?
It was garland. It was foliage.
I think that was about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was that, and then there's a Christmas tree on top of the piano.
That's right.
It was just a simple. That was all there was. It was enough to just show because, and I suppose in a way, in that period, you don't go any more lavish than that, really. It wasn't. They didn't have more decorations.
Well, that's it.
Way,
it was Victoriana, wasn't it?
Yes,
Very
much. Very much so.
Era.
Yeah, where glass ornaments starting to show and stuff like that are actually being used, and
stuff from the pantry,
things that you would get out every year rather than you wouldn't refresh everything because it's plastic and cheap.
Well, yes.
This year's theme is plastic and cheap.
Now that's my era I'm in now.
Is that your era?
Plastic and cheap. Yes. In fact, it's never ended. The costumes I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see when they start out as maids, they were just like a blank canvas of just the white costume. So you knew that whenever they're going to get colourful, that's when it showed money and wealth in different characters.
They're just wearing these sort of calico smocks. It wasn't really anything. It was very basic.
But also the male characters, the jackets and stuff, everything was very much high detailed. Yeah. Extremely well made.
Definitely.
They could have gone down runways with that kind of stuff.
And I mean, to describe the dresses and stuff, there was a lot of dresses that were made in a theatrical way where everything on the front was fixed. You put your arms through and they were tied at the back. and
Yeah.
you've got the instant, or they were velcroed at the back, and just for quick change purposes and things like that. But it was enough to, because all the business had been done at the front. That's what they needed to do, and it showed
And
you.
is that
you
what your
instantly
dates
got,
are like? All the business is
Yeah.
done at the front and you
Yeah.
velcroed at the back.
That's the one.
Oh
But it
my
gave you
life.
the instant character without them having, as a performer, having to have to wrap everything round, tie everything up. It was
Yeah.
just straight on and off we go. And I think that then helps them perform as well, because they all needed to know what was going off. I'm sure, with all this said, there's been some times when it hasn't maybe gone to plan and things have been
Yeah.
put on the wrong hook or in the wrong place, and they've been
I think
quite
they
a bit of
would have
running
been
around
early
backstage
days.
that we don't know about, you know.
Oh, but did you see they were walking?
There was a couple of
backstage,
times,
so
yeah.
Once the character left from under the stairs,
Yeah.
you'd see them just take in their maid's costume, whatever colour garment they were wearing. It was
Yeah.
folded over their arm, and they were
Yeah.
walking as maids,
Yeah.
as if they were just taking linen from one
When-
cupboard to the next as they moved from one part of the stage to the other.
When they're probably going,
But the thing, it was done so delicately.
Yeah,
that
it was.
it wasn't disturbing the scene that
No.
was going on in the main
No.
stage. It was
there were just
just-
maids
it
in the
was
house walking around.
background
You know.
characters.
Yeah, exactly.
That they were just going about their business, and that was quite good.
Yeah, there was
And I
no
like
sense
that.
of hiding
There was no
the,
importance to that
the
character.
stuff
just-
behind the scenes either,
Yeah.
and I think that was good.
Yeah, you
you
knew
know.
that they were changing. You knew that they were going from one place to the other to come out from the other side. You know?
Exactly.
Oh, and another part, which we've missed, but it's a
Go
prop.
for it. Yeah,
The bin,
I
the
know.
Jane Austen
Yeah.
bin.
The Jane
Austen.
Austen. Yeah,
That was great, and that was another thing of just its own little section,
Yeah.
its own little stage with props within it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to bring up is the versatility of the actors with props, as in we had musical instruments on stage and they were being played,
Yes.
and they were being used within the production,
Oh, you mean the one with the triangle?
and the accordion player and the piano player. You know, there was
Oh, the piano player. Yes.
Yeah, so
Was
they
there an accord?
yeah, somebody had an accordion.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's the key thing to this. They just picked them up, played them, a little bit like we saw in Brief Encounter, where it's very
Yeah.
much part of the production that you just saw how talented they were, because it was effortless. You know, every bit of prop was used, and everything was specific. So.
Well, you wouldn't have a prop that you wouldn't use.
Well, no, but I think there's a lot of times where we've seen productions where they've thrown stuff on stage, and you think, well, there's no point having all that on there. It might
Yeah,
have
because
it's
it never got
just
used.
not. It was there, but you're just tripping over it rather than it being, you know, if you can make a gold picture frame funny, you don't need everything else, because people know there's a wall there if you're standing there with a picture frame.
Yeah.
You don't need all the extra stuff around you. You know, it's like we've seen in other productions. You can have that much on set and staging that you just.
You mean like a gramophone, a hospital bed,
Yeah.
a blimp?
a bin full of
wheelchair.
water, full of newspaper, and this, that, and the other, and it just becomes
A mess.
A mess, yeah. And I think that this was a fine example that people can learn lessons from, and I think that's what people working in theatre should do, is see other people in their prime do it, and take and learn and find elements in those productions that help them guide what they want to do, because it makes more sense. You know, watch the masters do it to then see how you can do it, and I think that's important.
And also, it's choosing specifically what to throw away and
Yeah.
what to keep. Now, they didn't have to have the piano in. And
No,
they
they didn't.
They didn't have to have the horse. They could have done something different. And they could have done something different with the bin. However, they kept all those three in, those heavy items.
Yeah,
And do you know what? I'm glad they did, because
Yeah,
even though
totally.
they were pretty much on for,
Yeah.
especially the horse
Yeah.
one scene and the bins one scene. I
Yeah.
think the piano came in a few times, but just for that one scene, it made it more.
Really
it
did.
added so much, even for one scene.
and I mean, for me, we talk about Edinburgh, we talk about festivals and fringe festivals and things like that. I can see why the bin was used, because it was a big industrial bin on wheels. Now, quite cleverly, if you're doing a production in Edinburgh, and you've got to pack everything away before the next production comes in that day, you could fill that bin with everything that was on stage, ready to move away on wheels, put it into one side, ready to then bring out the next day to do the production. So even though it was a big prop, it actually becomes quite useful for your production because you've got somewhere to put everything. But also from that, this is where I think when you've got big budgets or you've got enough money to throw at a production, you don't learn these lessons. You don't learn that restraint is important. You don't learn that you've got to see a production as it needs. As you can't edit because you've got all the money you can throw at something, or you've got all the lighting or the sound to throw at it. You can sometimes restraints gives you that strength to edit because you can't fit something in, but you see key things like you say, like the horse and the piano, they are key pieces of prop, and the chair with the newspaper on, they're key pieces that make it bigger. They expand the world that you're seeing on stage.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, what the tech is this?
Lighting wise, I mean, generally it was pretty much general cover with a little bit of glitz and glam, a bit of cliched karaoke pop performances,
karaoke lights in a way when they did the karaoke.
Dimly lit, a few follow spot moments. It's very much got a microphone, put the spot on me. But it was right for this production. I think that was the key. There was a few funny blackout moments that obviously it's not really a technical brilliance, but it was lights off, lights on, and the sets changed pretty instantly, or the entrance of somebody has just appeared on stage. They did a lot of like appearing acts,
Yeah.
So I thought that was good because it also became funny because of those blackouts and the things like that.
Yeah, and the sound effects, I think there was only the sound of rain, wasn't there?
Yeah, there wasn't really. There was a few atmospheric bits with some bird song and things like that. There was nothing over the top, and the music. I did think from the sound effects side or music side, it was really cleverly done where they were obviously playing either music over the top of a recorded track in the background. So there was a few times where they'd start playing the piano, and then they'd walk away from the piano and it was still playing, so that they were still playing the right keys on the piano, but it was actually a recorded track, so they went into the next part of dialogue. They did a lot of work on that. There was a natural blend between the sort of canned music and what they were performing on stage, so I think that worked really well.
And the songs that they chose as well was quite interesting.
They were
it was modern
fun
as well, and the one standout track for me was the one when they did the Voice of the Beehive, which is not a very well known band, but there's that song that they did.
Yeah, they used a lot of things like
I Think I Love You song.
Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? They did Don't Go Breaking My Heart, It Takes Two. You're So Vain, Carly Simon.
Oh yes, that was good.
It was very much jukebox comedy karaoke songs that were picked to be part of the production and were right at the point where they were singing them, and I think that was the key thing. They weren't just thrown in the mix for no reason. They actually meant something at that point.
And now it's time for
Rewind Rewatch.
For me, it'd have to be the whole piece. However, I would love to see the horse scene again and love to see the photograph scene again.
Yeah, I mean, I just straight up like to see the whole thing again. I think there was that much happening that, it'd be easy. And it's a comforting watch, as you say. I'd definitely happily go and see it again.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say, call this a show?
So, Richard, to sum up this play, how would you describe it, or what would you say?
I think if you value clever theatre and you want to see something that's not only funny but awe-inspiring, I think you need to get a ticket. That's the easy way I can describe it. It'd be silly not to see this. It almost feels improvised, and I think that's the key to this. It almost feels like they're just having fun, but it's so specific and so well rehearsed that you need to just get a ticket and see it.
I thoroughly enjoyed this piece. I was a bit apprehensive at the start because I didn't know what I was getting myself in for, but this has just been so incredible to watch. It was exciting, it was non-stop, it was, like you said in your post-show, it was chaotic, but it was chaotic in a good way, and it was so creative and energetic. and it was a joy to watch. And it reminded me a little of when we saw The Brief Encounter.
Yes.
It was so comforting.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it was so full of warmth and laughter. And I've never seen anything as busy and so quick with props and the ins and the outs and the changes and stuff. So it was really nice.
Yeah.
And it was just engaging in that way. That's all I can say. And I would definitely advise anyone to go and see this. And I will see this again, definitely.
Definitely.
So, Richard, would you like to give me your scores, please, for Pride and Prejudice, sort of? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best balls the Bennets have ever been to, and 1 being a complete misunderstanding. What's it going to be?
It can only be a 10 out of 10.
Yep. And it's a 10 out of 10 for me as well. It would definitely get a 10 plus, I think.
Always going to the plus.
I'm going to the plus side. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
A standing ovation. Total standing ovation.
Yep, it's a standing ovation for me. Please, go and see this show. You've got to go and see this. It's a brilliant, outstanding
Totally
piece of
agree.
theatre. It's a masterpiece in writing, directing, and acting, I suppose I would like to say.
So there we are. That's our discussion of Pride and Prejudice, sort of. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
And opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage.
Pride and Prejudice, sort of, is a play by Isabel MacArthur with songs based on Jane Austen's novels. It's Jane Austen's novels, isn't it? Jane Austen novels.
No, Jane Austen's novel, Pride and Prejudice.
Oh yeah, sure. I thought not all of them then. She's very novel.
Ooh.
Ah,
Oh, that
God.
was good.
It's a good one.
I like that one.